Okay, this is Chapter 7, Stock Characteristics and Valuation, or equity, as it's referred to as well. Equity represents ownership in a company, and we're going to talk about different types of stock and so forth. But probably most importantly, we're going to learn how to different methods for valuing stock. So. So we're going to talk about what equity actually is, identify the features, and the two basic types are preferred stock and common stock, and we'll go through them in detail. As I mentioned before, we're going to talk about how stock prices are determined. We'll have with valuing stocks with dividends that grow at a constant rate. And then we'll have a non-constant rate. Non-constant. When you think of a constant rate, think of an established company that's been it's pretty its business plan is pretty well set. A non-constant growth would apply to a younger company, so a startup or some company in the early stages of growth. So those types of companies, they might have you might have many different growth rates that you apply. In most of the cases we're going to have with non-constant growth rate, we'll have two different growth rates for a higher one typically for a short period of time, and then a constant growth rate for the remainder of the life of the firm. We'll talk about approaches other than the strict application of the time value money that investors use to value stocks. We're just going to talk about those. We're actually not going to employ any of those. I did in the problems that I uploaded, I did do an example using the PE ratio, but we won't go beyond that. But there are a couple other methods at the end of these slides that are discussed, or the end of the chapter. We'll talk about factors that affect stock prices. So types of equity. We talked about preferred stock and common stock. Preferred stock is a hybrid security. It has characteristics of both bonds and stocks. So it's similar to bonds with fixed dividend payments. In the most part, the dividend on a preferred stock is constant and does not change over time. And for the most part, preferred stock is perpetually outstanding. So that affects the way we'll value it. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Similar to common stock, because dividends are not required to be paid. There's no specific maturity date. And then common stock, totally different animal. We'll talk about that in detail as we move forward. So features of preferred stock: has a par value. So the only use of that par value is that the par value is what you use to calculate the dividend. In most cases, there will be a dividend rate, and you multiply the par value times the dividend rate. I believe there's a homework problem where you're required to you're given a par value, and you would need to multiply that by the payout rate or dividend rate to determine the actual dividend. But the par value is just the nominal face value of that of, in this case, preferred stock. Dividends are cumulative, meaning that if the dividends aren't paid in previous periods, they have to be paid before common dividends are paid. preferred stockholders fall between bondholders and common stockholders. Maturity does not have a specific maturity date. So, okay. Priority of assets, we talked about this. Preferred dividends are paid after interest and on debt is paid, but must be paid before the dividends on common stock are paid. And we talked about if the company is in arrears, the preferred shareholders have to be made whole before the common stockholders can be paid. So control of the firm or voting rights. Preferred stock rarely has has voting rights. So that is a feature that is predominantly a common stock feature. Convertibility, preferred stock that can be converted to common stock at the option of the investor. That is, in some cases, not terribly common, but it is something that is an option occasionally. Other provisions, a preferred stock can have a call provision, gives the company the right to call that preferred stock so they can buy it back from you, basically. Sinking fund calls for repurchase, which is effectively the same as a call provision. So participating preferred stock is shares they participate in the distribution of the firm's earnings. It'll typically be at a lower rate. So next lecture we'll cover common stock features.